Welcome to Life Stories, where real experiences shape powerful lessons. Today, we bring you the story of Olivia Carter, a woman who built a thriving business from nothing, only to be betrayed by the very people she trusted most. When her own sister stole everything she had worked for, Olivia didn't break, she fought back. What happened next shocked everyone. This is a tale of resilience, ambition, and the ultimate revenge, success. Subscribe to Life Stories to begin today's journey. Stay with us as we unravel Olivia's extraordinary fight for what was rightfully hers. My name is Olivia Carter, and this is the story of how I learned that sometimes the people closest to you, the ones you love the most, can be your greatest obstacle. Family is supposed to be a source of strength, a refuge in difficult times. But for me, it became a battlefield. And in that battle, I lost more than I could have ever imagined. But I also gained something greater: clarity, strength, and the knowledge that I was capable of standing on my own. For 10 years, I poured my heart and soul into my family's business, taking it from a struggling repair shop in a quiet corner of Austin, Texas, to a thriving tech company. The journey was filled with long nights, missed holidays, and an endless hunger to prove myself. Yet, no matter how much I achieved, I always felt like I was fighting against a current that refused to acknowledge me. And that current had a name: my father, Robert Carter. My father was a man of deep pride, the kind of man who built things with his hands and expected his children to follow in his footsteps. He had founded our small computer repair shop nearly 2 decades ago, working tirelessly to keep it afloat. It was never a big success, but it was his pride and joy. He had dreamed of passing it down to his children, but only to the one he considered worthy. And that was never me. That title belonged to my older sister, Madison. Madison Carter had always been the golden child, the perfect student, the model daughter. She had an easy charm that made people gravitate toward her, and our father adored her. She breezed through life with an effortless confidence, attending an elite business school and landing a high-powered consulting job in New York. She had the kind of success that was measured in polished LinkedIn updates and magazine-worthy networking events. Meanwhile, I was the quiet one, the one who stayed behind. I was never jealous of Madison, not in the way people might think. I admired her in many ways, but I also knew we were different. Where she thrived in boardrooms and cocktail parties, I found comfort in the quiet logic of code. While she studied theoretical business models, I was in the shop, fixing broken systems and learning how real businesses worked. My father never said it outright, but I knew he saw my choice as a disappointment. "Olivia, you're wasting your potential," Madison would say whenever she visited home, shaking her head as if she pitied me. "You should aim higher." But I was aiming higher. I just saw something that no one else did: potential. It started small, almost as an accident. During my final year of college, while still working at the repair shop, I built a simple inventory management tool for small businesses. It wasn't groundbreaking, but it was intuitive, affordable, and it met a real need. For years, my father had struggled with keeping track of orders, missing out on opportunities simply because the shop lacked organization. My software fixed that problem, and when I shared it with some local business owners, they were interested. They started buying licenses. At first, my father dismissed it as a distraction. "We're a repair shop, Olivia," he said gruffly, "not a software company." But the moment he saw money coming in, his tune changed. For the first time in my life, I saw a flicker of something rare in his eyes: pride. "Maybe you're on to something here, kiddo," he admitted, patting me on the back. That moment meant everything to me. If only I had known how temporary it would be. The success of the software transformed our little shop. We started offering services beyond repairs, working with local businesses to optimize their systems. Word spread, and soon, we weren't just serving Austin, we were expanding beyond Texas. It was no longer just a family-run repair shop, It was a real business. And I was at the helm. For 5 years. I worked tirelessly, pouring everything I had into the company. 14-hour days. 7 days a week. I was obsessed. Driven not just by ambition but by a desperate need for validation. I wanted my father to see me, to recognize what I was building. Don't work yourself into the ground. Olivia, my mother would say gently, bringing me dinner when I forgot to eat. You need a life outside of this. But I couldn't stop. Maybe part of me was still that little girl who just wanted her father's approval. Maybe I just wanted to prove that I could create something of my own. And then, just as we hit our first million in annual revenue, something changed. Madison came home. She had quit her high-profile job in New York and returned to Austin. Standing in the doorway of our family home like she had never left. She was different, polished, confident, and ready to stake her claim. I think it's time I took my rightful place in the company, she announced at a family dinner, flashing her signature self-assured smile. With my business expertise, we could really take things to the next level. I froze. My fork hovering mid-air. The company I had built from nothing was suddenly being handed to Madison like some kind of inheritance. My father beamed. That's wonderful. Sweetheart, he said, his voice filled with pride. We could use your professional touch around here. I swallowed my objections, forcing myself to smile. Because deep down, I already knew. No matter what I had done, no matter how much I had built, I would never be enough in his eyes. And that was the moment I realized the real fight was only just beginning. Madison's arrival wasn't just a homecoming, it was a takeover in disguise. At first, I told myself I could handle it. After all, I had spent years proving my worth. I had built the company from the ground up, and my father had finally seen what I was capable of. But deep down, a small, nagging voice whispered that history was about to repeat itself. Madison wasn't content to simply join the company. She wanted to lead it. Within weeks, she had positioned herself as my equal, despite knowing almost nothing about software development or the day-to-day challenges we faced. My father insisted it was good for the company's image. She has the business expertise. Olivia, he reasoned. And you have the technical skills. It's the perfect balance. But there was no balance. There was only her. She was given the title of co-CEO, a position I had never been offered. I had spent years working in the trenches, sacrificing my personal life. But Madison waltzed in and took a seat at the head of the table as if she had earned it. And the worst part, everyone welcomed her with open arms. At first, I tried to be diplomatic. I told myself that as long as I continued handling product development and operations, I could keep the company on track. Madison could focus on the areas she excelled in: marketing, investor relations, public image. But I underestimated her. She wasn't just here to help, she was here to claim ownership of my work. I watched as she gave interviews about being a woman in tech, painting herself as a trailblazer. As if she had built the company with her own hands. She accepted awards for innovation, took meetings with investors, and made sweeping decisions without consulting me. Slowly, methodically, she began pushing me to the sidelines. At first, it was small things, meetings scheduled at times she knew I couldn't attend, projects being approved without my input. Then it escalated. My emails were ignored. My authority was undermined. I would walk into meetings only to realize that the real discussions had already taken place behind closed doors. Don't take it personally, Madison would say with that polished smile. We're just doing what's best for the company. I gritted my teeth, swallowing my frustration. The company. My company. For 5 years. I had bled for this business. I had sacrificed friendships, relationships, my own health. And now I was watching someone else rewrite history, turning my achievements into her success story. My mother saw what was happening. She would stop by my office in the evenings, watching me as I worked late into the night. She's your sister, she would say softly. There's enough room for both of you. I wanted to believe that. But the truth was, Madison wasn't just taking space, she was erasing me from my own company. And my father? He let it happen. As long as Madison looked good on paper, as long as the company was thriving, he didn't care about the power struggle unfolding before him. I tried to fight back. I pushed for more control. Reminded him of the work I had done. The sacrifices I had made. But every time, he brushed it aside. Madison has the experience to take us further, he said dismissively. You need to trust her. I wanted to scream. Trust her. The woman who had taken credit for my work. The woman who was quietly dismantling everything I had built. But I didn't scream. I didn't fight. Because I knew something Madison didn't. She had spent her life being handed success. But I had earned mine. And I wasn't about to let her take it away from me. The night that changed everything started as a celebration. Madison had planned it. Of course. She always had a flair for grand gestures. My father's 60th birthday was the perfect excuse for her to throw an extravagant party. One that just so happened to double as a networking event. She rented out the most luxurious ballroom in Dallas. Invited investors, clients, and business leaders, people she wanted to impress. It wasn't about my father. It was about her. I knew that the moment I walked in. I arrived early to help with preparations. As I always did. I wore a simple black dress. Nothing flashy. Because I believed this night was about family. But the second Madison spotted me, she gave me that familiar disapproving glance. Couldn't you have made more of an effort? She hissed. Scanning me from head to toe. These are important people. Olivia. I bit my tongue, forcing myself to smile. I had long since learned that arguing with Madison was pointless. The room quickly filled with guests. My father, ever the proud host, shook hands and exchanged laughter with old friends. Madison floated effortlessly from one group to another. The center of attention as always. I stayed in the background, making sure everything ran smoothly. That had always been my role, quietly ensuring success while someone else took the credit. Then, just as I was beginning to relax, Madison clinked her glass. Ladies and gentlemen, she said, her voice confident, polished. Thank you all for coming tonight to celebrate our father's incredible legacy. But while we honor the past, I also want to take a moment to look toward the future. A strange tension crept up my spine. As we celebrate Dad's 60th birthday, she continued, smiling like a politician. I think it's time to announce some exciting changes at Carter Tech. I froze. Changes? What changes? Madison cast a sweeping gaze across the room, her eyes finally locking onto mine. The board has agreed that the company needs unified leadership moving forward, she said. Her words like a knife. For too long. We've been held back by outdated thinking and resistance to change. That's why. Effective immediately. I will be taking over as sole CEO. A murmur rippled through the crowd. My stomach twisted. Board meetings? What board meetings? I turned to my father, waiting, praying for him to say something. To stop this. To tell Madison she had overstepped. But he just nodded along, a proud smile on his face. My world crumbled. Madison wasn't done. Some people, she added, her voice dripping with false sympathy, are better suited for technical roles rather than leadership. She was talking about me. Publicly. In front of our entire network. She was stripping me of everything I had built. Olivia has done an adequate job maintaining our legacy systems, she continued, barely concealing her condescension. But in today's fast-moving industry, we need vision. We need excellence. She turned fully to face me. And frankly, Olivia, you're just not cut out for this level of business. The silence was suffocating. Hundreds of eyes were on me. I could feel the judgment. The whispers forming. I waited for my father to stand up for me, to say anything. But he didn't. My mother sat at the table, her eyes downcast, her hands trembling slightly. She didn't agree with what was happening. But she didn't stop it either. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. My hands tightening into fists at my sides. I could have shouted. I could have called Madison a liar. Demanded an explanation. Made a scene. But I didn't. Instead, I stood. Slowly. Deliberately. The chair scraped against the marble floor, the sound slicing through the hush like a gunshot. I reached into my bag, pulled out a small wrapped package, and placed it in front of my father. "Happy birthday, Dad," I said quietly. Then I turned and walked out, leaving behind the whispers, the stares, and the sister who thought she had one. 1 year later, Carter Tech had not only survived, it had thrived. Under my sole leadership, the company tripled in value, expanding beyond anything my father or Madison had envisioned. The sister who had tried to erase me found a job at a startup in Silicon Valley. Humbled but wiser. My father, finally understanding what he had nearly lost, retired quietly. We still saw each other during the holidays, exchanging polite words. But the wounds remained. Late at night, I sometimes looked at old family photos, remembering a time before ambition had torn us apart. But I had no regrets. I had built something lasting, not just a company, but a legacy that was truly mine. And in the end, the greatest success wasn't about proving them wrong. It was about proving to myself that I had always been enough. Subscribe to Life Stories for more incredible real-life tales.